Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another daily video Devo. Renee here at home today, and I want to talk to you today about magical thinking versus relationship-based thinking about God. In an early Peanuts cartoon, Linus comes up to Lucy and he says, "I just discovered something. If I hold my hands like this when I pray, I get the opposite of what I pray for." And I read an interview with Charles Schulz where he said he based that on a conversation he had actually had with one of his daughters who really believed that when she folded her hands pointing downward, her prayers went opposite. That's a great example of magical thinking. If I do this ritual, then I get that from God. And for a lot of people, their religion is based on magical thinking. If only I read the Bible and I maybe go on a mission trip, I don't miss church so many times a year, then God is somehow obligated to bless me. The problem with magical thinking is it leads to fearful thinking because I'm constantly afraid I didn't do the ritual right. And this is what you see in the book of 1 Samuel in the prelude to David's appearance. The people of Israel are engaged in magical thinking big time. At one point, things are going bad, and they think to themselves, if we send out our army with the Ark of the Covenant in front of it, then magically everything's going to go right for us because it's the Ark of the Covenant. And they do it, and they get slaughtered, and their leaders get killed because magical thinking doesn't work. But King Saul later engages in magical thinking several times. He is actually rebelling against God, but he decides if I do an offering to God at this sacred altar, then that ritual is going to earn God's approval, and of course it doesn't. In fact, Samuel, the prophet, tells him, "What are you thinking? Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams." And then David later kind of gets this. And he is one of the first people in a generation in Israel's history who shifts from magical thinking to relationship-based thinking. His relationship with God isn't based on some ritualistic magical idea, but it's based on God's unconditional love for him. In fact, David writes, in Psalm 51, "You do not delight in sacrifice, O Lord, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. My sacrifice, O God, is my broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart you will not despise." In other words, what God's concerned about isn't the religious ritual. What God's concerned about is the relationship, your heart. There's a great verse in 1 John 4:18. It says, "There is no fear in love, because perfect love drives out fear." If you're engaged in magical thinking about God, you're always going to be afraid that you haven't done enough. But if you understand God unconditionally loves you, then that's going to drive out all fear. So, would you like to live a life of confidence and courage? Leave behind the magical thinking and instead look at God based on relationship thinking. We love him because he first loved us unconditionally. You think about that and have a great day today.